County City Council for August 22nd, 2022 is now in session. Roll call, please.
Council President, Mr. Arcaro,
Present.
Mr. Emery,
Here.
Mr. Goff,
Here.
Mr. Kozowski,
Here.
Mrs. Ledford. Here. Mr. Moiseo,
Here.
Mr. Prokowski,
Present.
City Manager, Mr. Hockaday.
Here.
Finance Director, Mr. Williams.
Here.
Law Director, Mr. Lewis.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And moving on to approval of the meeting minutes for August 8th, 2022. Are there any alterations or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery.
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo,
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes.
Okay, the meeting minutes for August 8th, 2022 are approved. We have a number of awards presentations this evening. We're glad to have a nice crowd out there. And we're going to begin with Matt Crawford. Like to come forward, please. It's right there by the X is fine, Matt. We have a proclamation for Matt, who is retiring from the Cable Advisory Board after many years. Ms. O'Connell, if you could read the proclamation into the minutes, please.
Proclamation from the office of the Conneaut City Council, whereas Matthew Crawford was appointed to the City of Conneaut Cable Advisory Board on January 24, 2011, where he served for more than 11 years. Whereas during his time on the Cable Advisory Board, Matt became an accomplished videographer who used his talents to showcase the Conneaut community on local access cable television and globally on the internet with Conneaut CAT TV online. Whereas working in tandem with fellow CAB members, Matt developed his own unique style of videography. His interviews with political candidates and government officials have provided a valuable resource for community awareness. A few of Matt's many memorable video endeavors include Getting Dirty with Matt, a hands-on gardening demonstration show, routine political candidate interviews, annual Escape to the Lake MS bike marathons, 4th of July and Memorial Day celebrations, car club cruise-ins, and sock hop events. Whereas Matt's extensive history of volunteerism and service has brought light and life to many other charitable and community endeavors. Therefore, the City of Council of the City of Conneaut hereby recognizes Matthew Crawford for his service to the City of Conneaut and further wishes him the best in his future endeavors.
Thank you so much for everything you continue for the city. We appreciate it. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Say anything?
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Congratulations, Matt.
Thanks.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful job, man.
Thank you.
Congratulations and all the work on the tree commission.
Thank you, sir.
Want to say anything, Matt?
It was a team.
There's the-
It was a team effort for what we did on the Cable Advisory Board. I wasn't, I did a lot of fun stuff, but it took the whole team to make it all gel and make it work. And that's what I remember, and that's what I'm going to take home with me. So thank you all.
Okay, next up, we have an Eagle Scout proclamation, and we have Matthew Van Epps. Come forward, please, with your family.
Nope, I got one.
Ms. O'Connell, if you could read the proclamation into the record, please.
Whereas Boy Scout Matthew Van Epps, a member of Boy Scouts of America Troop 34 in the Greater Western Reserve Council, is being honored for achieving the rank of Eagle Scout. Whereas Mr. Van Epps has a passion for scouting and as such has earned a total of 39 badges. Mr. Van Epps has also served as a den leader for the youth of PAC 34, served his troop as senior patrol leader, assistant senior patrol leader, quartermaster, and patrol leader. Whereas Mr. Van Epps has participated in hundreds of hours of community service and has been part of several community events. Whereas Mr. Van Epps' Eagle Scout Service Project was designing, building, and installing 2 trail kiosks for the Outdoor Learning Center in Conneaut, Ohio. Whereas Matthew will be honored on Sunday, August 28th at 2:00 p.m. at the Outdoor Learning Center, where he will attend his Court of Honor. Therefore, the city manager of the city of Conneaut does hereby ask the citizens of Conneaut to congratulate and honor Matthew Van Epps for receiving the highest honor of the rank of Eagle Scout and wish him the best of luck in all his future endeavors.
Congratulations. Thank you. That's quite an achievement. Did you bring anybody help you along the way? My whole journey. And Mr. Crawford as well for coming. That's a tremendous achievement. I was Boy Scout. I never have seen Eagle Scout. I know what the accomplishment that is. Congratulations to you and your family and the Scoutmaster for that great job. Yeah.
Well done.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Excellent. Congratulations.
Good job, Mom and Dad.
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, our next Eagle Scout is Harrison Cleveland. Come forward with your family. Ms. O'Connell, if you could read the proclamation into the record, please.
Whereas Boy Scout Harrison Cleveland, a member of Boy Scouts of America Troop 34 in the Greater Western Reserve Council, is being honored for achieving the rank of Eagle Scout. Whereas Mr. Cleveland has a passion for scouting and as such has been involved in it for 12 years, starting as a Cub Scout. Whereas Mr. Cleveland has done everything from canoeing the Allegheny River to hiking trails at Glacier National Park. Whereas Mr. Cleveland's Eagle Scout Service Project was rebuilding a ruined storage barn at Camp Pete for the Asheville County Metro Parks. Whereas Harrison will be honored on Sunday, August 28th at 2 p.m. at the Outdoor Learning Center, where he will attend his Court of Honor. Now therefore, James Hockaday, City Manager of the City of Conneaut, do hereby ask the citizens of Conneaut to congratulate and honor Harrison Cleveland for receiving the highest honor of the rank of Eagle Scout and wish him the best of luck in all his future endeavors.
Congratulations. You want to introduce
This is my mom and dad. Sorry, I'm not wearing my uniform. Soccer team. They both helped me out tremendously through this entire process, and I really don't know without them.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
Well done. Congratulations, Mom and Dad.
Good job.
Always wanted to go down the Allegheny.
Gotta be proud. Congratulations. Good job. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Good job. Congratulations.
Okay, our final awards presentation this evening is our Employee of the Month, and we have Jennifer Hoover. Come forward, please.
Yay.
Ms. O'Connell, if you could read the certificate into the record, please.
Yes, the employee of the month for August is Jennifer Hoover. Jennifer Hoover, paralegal of the Law Director's Office, was nominated by Law Director John Lewis, who stated, with her knowledge and expertise not only in criminal law but civil law, she successfully manages the office, criminal filings, and the preparation of all the civil complaints. She'll be greatly missed as she leaves for maternity leave. Thank you for all of your hard work and determination. Dated this 22nd day of August and signed by council members Terry Moiseo and Nicholas Perkowski.
Council, this is small token of appreciation from.
Yeah. I would just add, when I took this job out of the law director position approximately a year ago, I inherited a great staff. They're pretty self-sufficient, and Jennifer, you deserve this award.
Yeah.
So thank you.
That concludes our awards presentations for this evening. We'll move on to citizen comments. No? Okay. Does council have any citizen comments? Okay, moving on to communications.
I have none this evening.
Does council have any communications? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to reports of the administration, beginning with city manager, Mr. Hockaday.
Thank you, Council President Arcaro. A couple significant things that I want to update you on. First and foremost, I want to say thank you and a presumptive congratulations to Nichelle Blood, our Health Department Director, in navigating the accreditation for the City of Conneaut's Health Department. Both the board, collaborating agencies, as well as administrative staff have been working on that accreditation process for about 2 years throughout the duration of even a global pandemic. So they had their on-site visit. We'll have the final results of that in November. I'm very optimistic that they did very well in that site visit. So thank you to Nichelle, her staff, and certainly the rest of the board on that significant process. We would be one of, I believe, less than 10% departments nationally that would achieve an accreditation status. So that's a big deal. It's also a requirement for our health department, according to, I believe, Senate Bill 122 a couple of years back. If we do not achieve an accreditation status, we will be required to surrender our health department to the next regional agency, which in this case would be the Ashtabula County Health Department. I think we know what kind of value they bring to our community. So I look forward to their continued service in that capacity. Just wanted to acknowledge that because I felt it was worth it. I'm going to be sending out an email to council with a couple of plan drawings. They're significant in length. I just want you to be able to have a copy. The redesign of the Route 20 intersection with Innovation and Thompson is probably at about 95 complete status. It's about a 43-page drawing set. I'm going to email that to you so you have it. Certainly, if you review it and there's anything that you would like to mark up or comment on, I'd like to do that now before we start doing our presentations to ODOT. That was 100% ODOT funded redesign of that intersection to accommodate the port connector to the north on Thompson Road, as well as some additional traffic on the Innovation Parkway Industrial Park project. So those have been going on in the background. We also received some preliminary integrated drawings between Madison Broad, the Broad Street reconstruction, and Madison Street reconstruction. We actually see a comprehensive drawings of both. I'm hoping I have the first few couple tiles of those, and as I get the others, I will send those out to council as well. I've attached here, if you are part of the Good Eyes team, which I am not, but I did already let council know via email, but you can see the District 7 round 37 OPWC fiscal year 24 scoring. We will need to complete our final application for the park and day improvements, but right now we are above the line, which means we will go to final integrating committee in October. And this would be awardable and actionable in July of 23. For the park and day improvements, $362,500 in grant, $200,000 in OPWC loan for a total package of $562,500 for an estimated about $1.6 million. That is a complete tear out and replace sidewalk, streetscaping, water, sewer, stormwater, kind of a soup to nuts project. The northern block of Day Street extension, as well as park from Broad to Day as well. So that's about a 3-block range there. As you can see also in there that our Buffalo Street improvements was below the line. So that will be a resubmit for next year. So I think that's a good award, and you can kind of look through that scoring and see what everybody else around the county and where they landed. So feel free to review that at your leisure. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the Ohio Small Bridge, which is part of the Small Cities grant series through ODOT. We were kind of urged to submit an application. Conneaut is blessed to have many municipal bridges. They do get inspected and scored every year. They are inspected and scored by the state of Ohio, so it's independent from us. So you can see their bridge sufficiency ratings or deficiency ratings in some cases. This is our lowest scoring bridge, and it's one of the probably lower scoring ones in the district in terms of its deficiency rating. And without having to go into the mumbo jumbo of it all, the most important part of this is if you look at the bridge, there's significant scoring and scouring and fraying of the bands underneath the box beams. So you can take a look at those photos. About a third of those tensils strands are exposed or deteriorated. Obviously they're overbuilt. It's not dangerous in any way, but it's time for replacement. And in fact, this bridge still has the original understructure from it. This bridge is from 1909. So it has served Conneaut well in the last century of service. The proposal is not for rehab. Its last major rehab was in 1991 because of the structural elements in it. This would include 2 new shorings on either side, plus a new foot in the middle. So it would include that structural member in the middle of the river would need to be replaced. So this would be a full replacement. Total estimated cost on this structure is about $2.5 million, with about $1.5 million in grant ask is what we have submitted for, with a construction match of about $500,000 to the city. We kicked out the timelines on this as far as possible for 2 reasons. One, it will allow us an opportunity to go back and secure other grant funds to potentially offset our local share further. But beyond that, as you know, the Norfolk Southern bridge replacement is underway right now, and I want to give them ample time to clear that project, and then we can do this bridge replacement. Old Main Road east of the river between there and Route 20 is to be resurfaced by the construction company doing the bridge replacement post-construction. So this, if we're successful, should sync up nicely with that series and the bridge replacement. The other thing that I would note is that's a particular concern that we'd address in the reconstruction of this bridge is its interface with the rail line there at Canadian National. It is quite odd. It's a matter of geography where the bridge basically abuts a rail line at its terminus. That's quite an unusual configuration, and we can certainly look at some pedestrian safety enhancements there. And it is a fairly high activity pedestrian bridge when we look at it from that perspective as well. A lot of it due to its critical connection east to west, but also due to the high intensity of traffic it sees in the springtime and the fall time related to folks fishing in the river. So it scores about 100 pedestrians a day is what our ADT rating is for that bridge. So I wanted to share that with you. We're constantly working on stuff like this in the background.
When you think the timeline would be on that? Springtime?
No, it'd be 2024 would be the construction timeline.
Okay.
Yes. So we're in the application phase right now and we've submitted this. We will have an interview with ODOT in September for what would be a November award that would go into effect in July of 23 for construction. And we have a completion of design and going to bid in 2024. So we pushed it out as far as possible because of the existing construction project related to the Norfolk Southern Rail Line.
And they're gonna resurface Old Main?
That's going to be part of the rail line project once they're completed. Just the eastern portion that they're using for
Right.
truck entrance,
Right, not the whole.
not the whole thing.
Right.
The west side's been done relatively recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And their construction entrance to bring in the rail bridge is the east side up 20.
So I'm just guessing that'll probably be next spring.
Yes, so right now they're boring, they're doing the pilings and footings on either side, and then they will redo the footings in the river. And then next year, they're going to do an in-kind replacement, which means they're going to run rail on it during the evening hours, and they're going to reconstruct it during the daytime hours, which is a common method, So anyways, I wanted to share that with you. I'll keep you posted on how we turn out on that. But even if we are unsuccessful in this grant round, this is going to be a high priority bridge for the city moving forward. And we have so many, we need to constantly have one of these in our cycle. 2 items.
And Mr. Hockley, I have a real quick question. On the OPWC, does that include infrastructure?
OPWC is only,
Is that only roads?
it can be roads, stormwater, water, sewer. It is a voted bonded indebtedness item. It's sometimes commonly referred to as issue 1 because the first time it appeared on the ballot in 1980 was issue 1. It has been reauthorized by the citizens of Ohio. It produces about $250 million a year statewide. And it is an annual grant program.
So if it accounts for infrastructure, sewer, water, so on and so forth, and if we're going to be replacing sidewalks, would that account for any street light replacement or decorative street light replacement?
Yes, it's streetscaping as well.
Streetscaping?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And so OPWC only will pay for repair and reconstruction of existing assets and infrastructure. So one of the most common questions we have is, well, can't we pave a new road with it? And the answer with OPWC, because this is a bonded item for the state of Ohio, is no. It's only for the reconstruction of existing municipal infrastructure, state and municipal infrastructure, not new infrastructure. So if you had a bridge, you can replace your bridge. You can't just pick a new spot and build a new bridge.
So this would also encompass the paving of Day Street, potentially, which way am I going? North from Park, that dirt section, that gravel section.
Extension, yes.
Yeah, that would pave
Yeah,
that too.
Day Street extension. Yep. That's included in this project scope. A couple other things that I want to touch on before I lose it, though. I would ask that Mr. Lewis, I sent out an email or a text message to council with the recent Ohio Supreme Court ruling regarding railroads. I'll have him touch on that in his report. I just wanted to mention that before we get too far down there. Conneaut Creek Dredge Material Facility is out to bid. There's been a pre-bid meeting. Today they were doing site visits. I think we had 7 contractors do site visits today on site. And we are going to end up needing to do a couple of addendums that will extend that timeline out. I'll get you that final extended bid open date. There are several questions. I will tell you, one of the questions in there has to do with lead time. We have multiple completion dates that we've specified in this contract to possibly get, it's a balance between speed and pricing. So we've asked for multiple completion date deadlines and different pricing on those multiple completion dates. One of the things that's been brought to our attention by a number of contractors is ductile iron pipe availability, which all the overflow piping and all that is ductile iron. There's not a huge amount of it, but it is fairly large diameter piping, and they're citing right now they have an 80-week lead time, which is about 18 months total lead time. So right now we're looking at some alternatives, and their request is can we consider substitute materials? And we're going to review that. But just know, as of right now, that's the only hiccup or wrinkle is product lead times. But we're seeing that across the board, and I just want you to be aware of any major issues like that, because we have a 12-month completion in there, and everybody's basically saying if you have the ductile iron, we can meet it, but if not, maybe not. So I'm going to jump down to paving. We finished the Dorman Road double chip seal. That's completed. Koski is looking at a kickoff pave week right now. It's the second week in September for their project work. The Estatic building remediation, we are still working on the sub-agreement between the city and Growth Partnership on that. And we'll get, and the RFQ is still out. Route 20 is, they're still doing some of their task items, including the leveling of manholes and aprons and so on and so forth. They have several punch list items that we've submitted to them, both on concrete sidewalk work as well as roadway work. We're hoping that here in the next 2 weeks that they can tie up any of those punch list items and complete that project and put that in the rear view mirror. Route 20 sewer lining. I think they're probably looking towards the end of this week. They do have a couple punch list items themselves where they parked on some sidewalk and cracked it. So they're going to do a little repair. But other than that, they are rounding out the end of their project that will be completed here in the, I'm going to say conservatively 2 weeks. They'll be totally complete and out of town on that project. Already touched on Broad Street in Madison. Norfolk Southern Railroad bridge replacement. We touched on that. Notice that they're going to start doing their pilings here relatively soon and work on the footing of that bridge. So that will be a lot noisier once that gets underway. As I know they have done some notices on that to affected parties in the area. The NIP program, as I stated during the last meeting, we're in the process of clearing up any kind of remediation in terms of asbestos testing or remediation if necessary on those multitude of demos, as well as some cleanouts on some of those properties that had heavy debris in or on the property that's not subject to the demolition. So that's been underway, and we look for the wrecking ball to start moving here in that first week of September on those properties that were selected for that. The last thing I'll note, and I'll turn it over to the law director here, is we're doing some of our capital maintenance projects where we submit them to DEFA, the Department of Environmental Financial Assistance. This is Water Pollution Control Loan Fund and the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund with the state of Ohio. They have some extra nominations in cycle. So for drinking water, our biggest and highest priority is going to turn towards the Clark Street Water Tower. It is the next major capital asset in the distribution system that definitely needs to be addressed. It's a 1930s 8-legged monster that definitely needs to be dealt with. And then in addition to that, within the plant itself, and I know council just did the tour, is the powder activated carbon system, which is one of our HAB barriers, our harmful algal bloom barriers, and is required by our permit, needs to be addressed. So we're going to nominate both of those projects. Lastly, in the distribution system, we're going to nominate a couple lead and copper replacements. We're probably going to try and mate up this OPWC Park and Day improvement with some lead and copper replacements as well. So we're going to have that submitted to nomination. Typically, these all score well. They do really well. Council does not have to act on them. It's just a nomination. So if we're able to get the projects to move forward and materialize the rest of the funds, we can keep going. If not, it doesn't hurt to throw your hat in the ring. On the sewer side, and I know we were just at sewer as well. The third and final clarifier that we talked about needing where the old wind turbine used to sit, that needs to be replaced. And then we talked also about replacing the UV lamp system, the chlorine system. And so that project's being nominated. I think Mr. Bidwell wanted to add the generator in there as well. They're generally at their useful life at this juncture. So those are the projects, and those are only water and sewer. Those are restricted to water and sewer. I can't throw roads in there, unfortunately. So those are some of the applications we've been working on in the background. Just thought I'd share. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Hockey, if we can go back up to the first page of your report. Walnut and West Jackson, what's going on those two streets?
We talked about taking some of the additional money that we had in the contract for the sanitary sewer lining on Broad Street here. We still have some within the contingency, is taking that and doing some additional sewer lining on Walnut and West Jackson. Brian asked that we take a look at that. We can do it within the contingency line of that project. And we would just alter the United Survey contract to include those two short runs. They're fairly small, but we've done well. We've stayed to budget within the Route 20 project.
Okay.
So Brian would like to add those.
And will that fix the concern that Mr. Emery brought up?
That's stormwater. That's a completely separate issue. And I have had both Brian and Joe look at that project. I figured you would ask me, so I'll just address it now. So I think we need to sit down with Mr. Plant and talk about that, because there is a catch basin issue, but I don't know that that's going to fully resolve what he's speaking about. So I think we're just going to meet all three of us out there. We do have a catch basin ready to go to do install. Yes. But Brian has concerns that it may not address 100% of what Mr. Plant is talking about, because it's between the two property lines, not on the public right of way. So we just want to make sure that we're all under the same understanding before we do anything.
Yeah, like I told you before, the issue wasn't there for all these years I've lived down there. And then all of a sudden this issue popped up, and I think it was the neighbor across the street said that the city had come down and tore something out, you know, and that's why all of a sudden, remember I told you, I thought
Yeah.
there was a broken line down there last winter.
Mhm.
It was the water running down there, and I don't know if we have a spring or what. It's dry down there now.
Yeah. Well, maybe until today, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, it would probably be a good idea, because I did have Brian go out and check it, and I've Brian and well, Joe DeBell, they're giving me the same information, but I just want to make sure that the homeowner, the property owners on the same page as us is what we think that will resolve and what it won't resolve.
Mr. Brady.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I think they'd be pretty happy to get this resolved.
Yeah. So I just, I want to make sure expectations are matching. So when we install something and it doesn't resolve a portion of the issue, so it might be a good idea for all of us to sit down
Sure, absolutely.
and talk it out before we put a shovel in the ground.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for the city manager? Okay, if not, move on to the finance director, Mr. Williams.
Having a report this evening.
Move on to the law director, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Arcaro. I know this is probably an unusual time to bring this up, but I've been handed a note from a citizen apparently that's here, and she's asking to address council. And I know that the time for that has already passed, so I didn't know if you would entertain a citizen comment at this time.
At the end of the meeting, we will.
Okay.
If I could get the information.
The woman here in the yellow shirt has
have a
asked to address
name?
council. I think she's going to need to fill up, put her name and address on that information sheet there, ma'am. And then As far as my report, I've submitted a written report for everyone. I hope that everyone's gotten a copy of it. And I would like to address the recent Supreme Court of Ohio decision that Mr. Hockaday mentioned earlier. We have currently over 60 cases that have been filed against the railroad here in Conneaut. Under our ordinance, that makes it a misdemeanor of the first degree to block a railroad crossing for more than 5 minutes, for a train to block the crossing for more than 5 minutes. The Supreme Court of Ohio has struck down the state statute that is identical to our ordinance and said that can no longer be enforced. And it's a matter that should be addressed by federal law and not state law. So that ruling is going to certainly apply to our ordinance as well. And like I said, we've got over 60 cases currently pending before the Conneaut Municipal Court. The attorney for the railroad is likely going to file a motion to dismiss all of those. And Judge Irochi is likely going to have no alternative but to dismiss those cases based on the Supreme Court of Ohio ruling. So that's kind of where we're at with those.
So we have no recourse under home rule?
I mean, I'm sure that argument is going to be made, and but I doubt that it's going to carry any weight in the courts. When the Supreme Court of Ohio addresses an issue like this, and they address it under the supremacy clause, saying it should be governed by federal law and not state law, I don't think that argument's going to carry any weight at all, really. But so that's kind of where we're at. In 62 cases, that's quite a few cases. It's first degree misdemeanor. It's $1,000 fine for each conviction.
And considering the frequency with which it happens,
It's terrible that happened.
I certainly don't agree with that decision that's been made, but right at this moment, we're kind of powerless to do anything about it.
okay.
So we can't even fine them or try to get monetary.
The kid, if I were to continue to file cases against them, under this new ruling, Judge Irochi would really have no recourse but to dismiss the case when asked to by defense counsel. That's the situation as it stands today. It could change down the road at some point, but as of right now, we're kind of powerless to do anything about it.
The Supreme Court is basically, state Supreme Court is saying it needs to be a federal law.
Correct. Yes. Needs to be governed by the federal government and not the state or the city.
Well, I guess we'll have to make mention to our representatives, both the House and Senate, federal, to see if this can possibly be addressed under federal statute. So
That's just for blocking of crossings.
That's, yeah, the statute that says they can't block the crossing for more than 5 minutes.
Nothing else.
That's it. That's the only statute that was
We don't
addressed.
really have much else. We can't even force them to mow their right away.
Well, true, but I'm thinking in a train versus car accident,
Yeah,
that-
not addressed by this, not addressed by
that
that
there's
opinion.
speed limits that they have to abide by and other rules, which sometimes apply.
There's
So I'm just
also,
kinda-
there's also a safety factor in there. When those trains are sitting at the crossing that long, how many times as officers, you guys ran across people climbing over those trains, kids climbing over trains? In fact, I know a couple people that got ran over by the
Yep.
trains, just climbing underneath them. You know, so there's definitely a safety factor sitting there more than 5 minutes. Pedestrians get impatient and want to climb over those trains and they put themselves at risk. I just think that it's a horrible ruling on the Supreme Court.
agreed. Yeah, the biggest problem for the pedestrian traffic is when they stop right at school dismissal time.
Right,
Yes,
at the
right.
high
That's where you
school
see
on
it.
Mill
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where you're seeing a lot of
I
kids.
think they stopped, well, during D-Day, was it Saturday? There was a train blocking the crossings.
Yes.
During that, which probably made that traffic situation even more worse.
Sure. But you're absolutely right about the high school. How many times you seen kids jump those trains?
Right.
A lot.
Yeah.
One of the other things that'll let you know is I did have some preliminary discussion with not only our internal engineering team, but with ODOT about possibly making some additional funding available for communities that are heavily affected by this kind of decision. As you know, we are somewhat unique in that we have 3 Class 1 rails just within Conneaut. So we have some people, particularly like Woodworth, where they could be completely isolated, and if they can park a train for days without
Sure.
consequence,
Mhm.
it certainly brings up the specter of them doing that. The other thing is we also have manufacturers that would be heavily affected by that, including CSP, Tigen Industries, there on Gore Road. We have looked at some of the alternatives that we could consider for a differentiated grade crossing. The problem is they're kind of in a box between CSX and Norfolk Southern, and there's only 4 connections. Each one of them crosses a rail at some point in that immediate area. So one of those 4 crossings probably needs to be a differentiated grade crossing, whether it's a subgrade crossing or an elevated crossing.
When I think of Woodruff Road, you got 2 residents that live, you have 2 residents north of the tracks that are isolated and they're up in age. And if they have any health issues and there's a train sitting there, they're pretty much screwed, let alone the people that are going down on the boat ramp and fishing down there. If there's any accidents, that we've had people drown down there, the access down there is going to be blocked and has been blocked by this railroad. It's definitely, to me, I see more of a safety issue.
Agreed. And we'll look at what opportunities there are to create workarounds for those. If we're going to not receive any help from our federal components of government, then we need to look at what alternatives can be made. We do have keys to the Canadian National site that we can come through the site, but it is often not fast. It can take 20, 30 minutes to make your way all the way through that site in a given time of day. So, but to them, there's no direct access. There's no civilian access if there's a train sitting there. So it's one way in, one way out for those residents. So understood. And this is a terrible situation where we don't have any authority to say anything at all.
Yeah.
And it kind of compounds the one that happened earlier, probably 5-6 years ago, where we're no longer allowed to order them to mow their right of ways, which obviously even in town creates line of sight issues and hazard issues. And I don't know how many people really know this, but we will on occasion do it in our code enforcement mowing. We add it to it. Obviously, we can't back bill for it, but we see it as a safety issue for our residents, and that's why we do it. But ultimately, taxpayers are paying to mow the railroads right of ways.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. $1 billion railroad, both from CSX and NS, they can't afford to mow their own property. That's pretty sad.
Yep.
Everything's a nice one. They don't care.
Mr. Lewis, did you want to talk about anything else highlighting your report?
I'm sorry, Mr. Arcaro.
Did you want to highlight anything else in your report?
No, that was really the only thing I wanted to raise.
Okay.
If anyone has any questions or anything on my written report, happy to entertain those.
Okay, anybody, any further questions for Mr. Lewis? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to reports of our committees. Does anybody have a committee report? Hearing none, liaison reports.
I
I have a,
Okay, go ahead.
And I have two.
wow. Mine's gonna be really short. I went to the Board of Health meeting on August 17th. Mr. Hockaday stole my thunder there, but talking about accreditation, but yeah, they've been working very hard to accomplish that very difficult process, from my understanding. And the whole staff there, including Michelle, should be commended for their work in doing that. Also wanted to report that the health department has a supply of Narcan kits and are providing training for the use of those kits.
Is that open to the public?
My understanding it is.
All right, thanks. Ledford.
Oh, okay. All right. I have two reports this evening, Mr. Arcaro. There was a CAB meeting noon, August 10th at the Conneaut Public Library. The CAB welcomed new member Jim Coco, who is going to be taking Matt Crawford's place. At the invitation of the UH Conneaut Medical Center, CAB is producing videos to celebrate the hospital's 100th anniversary. Cindy Prather is taping Bob Lebzelter's interviews with representatives of all areas of the hospital, from food service to physicians to board members. The hospital will host a gala celebration on October 23rd. So congratulations to them for their 100th anniversary. CAB has ordered new computers for the studio, a new computer for the studio. They'll be covering Conneaut High School football home games. I can't even believe it's time for Conneaut High School football games, but it is, with new volunteer Bob Ettinger doing play-by-play and Bob Shackle behind the camera. Year to date, CAB has had 5,600 online views of its programming, which is available 24/7 on their on-demand site. Programs are also on the cable channels per weekly schedule. Looking for any volunteers, high school age and up, always are welcome. Please contact Regis Galvin at the CAB office in City Hall. Also, I would like to let everyone know there was a Conneaut Convention Visitors Bureau meeting Tuesday, August 9th at 6 p.m. at the Conneaut Port Authority office. Main focus of this meeting was the annual general membership meeting, which is September 6th at Buccia's at 6. So any members that are, any businesses that are members of the Conneaut Convention and Visitors Bureau, please plan on attending and let them know you will be there. I went last year. It was a very fun night. It's always fun to get together out there. They do a great job for their members. This time, George Peterson is going to speak. They also, their membership drive has ended and they welcomed 13 brand new members to the Bureau. So that was good. Well done. Couple events that are coming up. Perch and Pilsner will be 9th, 10th, and 11th at Conneaut Township. The Outdoor Learning Center Discovery Day is September 10th from 10 to 3. That's always a fun event. And then they'll be having their strategic planning meeting January of 2023. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I attended the Port Authority meeting on August 18th. Just in basic summary, they had made some dock repairs, so those were ongoing and made. The Dean Avenue playground is completed. If anybody has drove by there, you can see where the former tennis courts were seal coated. They're going to be doing the pickleball nets, and I believe the ice skating rink has been ordered and to be, or maybe has been received or going to be received and then installed here shortly. They did some road work, placed some asphalt grindings on Lagoon Road, and they also discussed the lake levels being about 12 inches lower. I think back in early spring, they were about at 10 inches. Now we're about 12 inches. They did receive the Platinum Clean Marina designation, and then the sandbar should have been reopened today after D-Day. That's basically about it.
Mr. Carroll, at the July 26th Planning Commission meeting, the commission approved new commercial construction on the Truck Rolled Out parcel with the understanding that the ZBA would also approve a couple variances. Truck Roll is hoping to open Dunkin' Donuts and Taco Bell in May of 23. ZBA met immediately after the Planning Commission, and their variances were approved.
Where was that again, Rich? Donuts and Taco Bell?
Truck Roll.
Truck Roll.
Truck Roll.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Any other liaison reports? Okay.
All in one night.
This, a lot of reports.
All righty. Yeah, we'll move on to our ordinances and resolutions, and we have a light load of those tonight with only two, and we will begin with ordinance 7222.
An ordinance to amend the 2022 budget through appropriations and fund and interfund transfers attached to 2 and marked Exhibit A.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Arcaro. The first one was creating a new line item in the fire levy for telephone communications. There are some additional charges for the Marks radio. That is an additional fee that we pay per month. And so that we needed to adjust that line item or create this line item. Engineering services and wastewater needs to be increased by about $10,000. And water distribution, they're pretty low on overtime. You only have out of a $17,000 initial appropriation, they have about 10% left. So they've had quite a few line breaks, and so that needs to be amended. Contractual services, that was depleted when they found a abandoned tank when they were replacing the water line on Route 20. So that was depleted, and they need this for Neptune services. So we're increasing that by 5,000 and utilities by 2,500. So the grand total budget amendment is 27,000.
Okay, any questions or comments regarding this budget amendment? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 72-22.
There's a motion to suspend a 3 reading rule on ordinance 7222. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
I'd like to move to act on ordinance 72-22.
Motion to act on ordinance 7222. Is there a second?
Second. Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 7222 is passed. Move on to ordinance 7322.
An ordinance to authorize payment to the following contractors in the amounts listed in section 1 below pursuant to section 5705.41D1 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Williams?
Oh, yeah, these were 2 invoices that were received after the fact. We did not have a purchase order in place at that time to cover it. One is for Neptune equipment, $3,200. That's for water distribution. And CT Consultants, we actually had the purchase order for the entire project amount. But I don't know if this was an additional expenditure. Maybe
Yeah,
Mr. Hockaday can address that.
So as you know, this is a nightmare project, the Route 20 project, waterline piece. They fully designed it twice. The second time we had to go extreme subgrade. So that waterline sits about 12 foot of depth. We hit the underground tank that we didn't know was there. That required some testing and redesign. CT did not charge any of their redesign cost on this project. Their request to us was if we would cover their additional inspection time related to the additional coordination with ODOT in the tank and so on and so forth. And I thought that was fair. That represents about 66 hours of additional inspection time related to this project. So it was an exceedance of our initial appropriation for the budget. So even though we had the full amount, it came in over budget. So we do need to address that.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, this is an emergency because of time, correct? Okay, so is there a motion?
Make a motion, Mr. Arcaro, to waive the 3 reading rule on ordinance 73-22.
There's a motion to waive the 3 reading rule on ordinance 7322. Is there a second?
Second,
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Lightford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
And Mr. Moiseo, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
I'd like to declare ordinance 73-22 an emergency.
It's a motion to declare ordinance 7322 an emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Lightford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo, the emergency has been declared.
I'd like to make a motion to act on ordinance 73-22.
There's a motion to act on ordinance 7322. Is there a second?
Second,
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Lightford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
The ordinance 7322 is passed. Move on to unfinished and old business. I'd just like to remind everybody that we will be meeting at Public Works for our next work session on September
Hold on.
first Monday in September.
Tuesday. It's Tuesday because that
Oh.
Yeah,
first
Labor
Monday
Day.
is Labor Day,
Tuesday.
September 6th, right?
September 6th.
Okay, so that's a Tuesday.
Yes.
We'll have to-
At PW.
Okay. Move on to miscellaneous business.
I'd just kind of like to touch a little bit more on what I've been talking about in the past 2 council meetings. And just make it brief, I would like to see a monthly report from the Port Authority and any dealings that they're getting into. So we don't have any more highly confidential letters sent out and have a surprise put on our lap 2 weeks prior. You know, when it come out, they've been dealing with this entity since October. None of us had any clue about it. Would have been nice to have an earlier look into it. So I don't think it'd be too much asking for a monthly report from them.
Well, the liaison,
I understand, but
do you want something in additional?
Yeah,
In addition, to that?
because he wasn't informed on it when I asked you. They never told you anything about communicating.
And there was no discussion.
Right, and they should have discussed it with you down there. So I would feel better just having a monthly report, so we don't have a surprise email sent to us and just give us.
I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I think
I
what
don't
they're
either.
doing down there, I support them. I know, and it's a disagreement with with you.
If you're comfortable with that.
Very comfortable with what they've been doing. You know, we appointed, last time I was on council, we worked very hard appointing those members to that group for the specific reason of economic development. And that's what they're doing. That's what they've been tasked to do. So I support them 100% and their efforts, this new project that they're doing. I'm
like
comfortable with the liaison report personally on council.
I agree.
Just making a suggestion.
Yeah, that's fine.
After that letter of them not having any idea how to run a marina. You're
But I-
comfortable with it, that's fine.
That's-
I don't want to get into discussion on that. It's
Yeah.
done and over with.
No,
I don't,
I'm-
yeah, I don't think we
That's why I
should
just would feel comfortable.
argue
with the
or,
report.
or, discuss that. I mean, everyone's entitled to their own
Right.
feelings, but I agree with Nick. I support it. I think I have all the confidence in what
That's-
they're
that's
doing and they
fine.
have a
Just make a
contract
suggestion.
and, yeah.
Would we be able to get a copy of the contract if a member of council would want to review it? To answer any questions that they may have?
You can ask them for it. Whether it's a public record or not, I would defer to Mr. Lewis on that. I know that
That's why I'm asking.
I know they have the right to negotiate in private for that specific reason. Port authorities are non-public entities and they're quasi-public. So not everything that they do has to be done in the light of day. And at times, and related to matters of economic development, that can be advantageous.
I understand
so-
that, but the way it was put out to us was pretty short, even though you're comfortable with it. you're
Because it's not,
comfortable. I
in the
wasn't
end, in the end,
comfortable
it's not our decision.
Right, it's their decision. That's why they're
their
on
decision,
that board. And, you know, yeah, they're 100% of people aren't going to agree with it, but that's why they're in that position. That's their job. They were doing their job. You know, and they let us know as a courtesy and confidence. It wasn't something they have to do. They don't have to do that.
The way I understood the email was that they were informing us about that.
Yeah.
Is the way I understood it.
Well, as it was put out to my ignorance of understanding. And that's where I'm going at with, help me understand more what's going on, but you explained it fine to me. So
Well, also,
I just made a suggestion.
also keep in mind that their meetings are public. So
They don't have to
if
if
you
you're-
wanted to go, you could and address them as well. So
So with Mr. Lewis, would that be a public record or we'd have to?
I'd have to research that, Mr. Moiseo, to know for
Just for
sure.
curiosity to see
Yeah,
if someone
I
had a
don't-
question, or even a member of the public.
All
would-
they have
would
to do is call the Port Authority if they have a question.
Well, and they can read the contract. If they want to see it. I
Well,
would think.
no, not if it's not for
Well,
for
that's what I mean, if
public.
it's not for
Yeah.
public,
I mean, you know, the Port Authority has an office. If anybody has a question, they can call and ask a question.
and you
No.
do advise the Port Authority, correct, Mr. Lewis?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, any other miscellaneous business? Okay, I do have one more thing. The chamber has reached out and I'm in full agreement with them. They sent me an email regarding Perch and Pilsner, which is coming up in September, as you all know. And in keeping with our community engagement, I would like to make a motion to donate $1,000 to the Perch and Pilsner event. That's a motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo,
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. And that brings us to slightly off order here on the agenda, and we'll move to have the citizen comment. And good evening to our guests who would like to address City Council. Community participation is an important part of local government and is encouraged. Please be advised that City Council sessions are audio and video recorded. When your name is called, please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. No abusive or threatening language will be allowed. If you have a specific question, you will receive a follow-up answer from either council or the city manager, and there will be no public debate at this time. When you're finished with your comment, you are welcome to stay, which we're at the end of the meeting. No need to stay unless you want to. Okay, thank you for your participation. And we have Carol Montgomery. Step to the podium there.
Hi. Does it work?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a comment and a question. So about 37 years ago, Conneaut was designated a Tree City USA. And right now, they're still on the list of Tree City USA as a participant. And I was just wondering, what is the status of that? And who is, if there is a status, if not, why not? And if there is, who is participating in it and how is it being handled? That's all. Thank you.
Okay, we'll get back to you with that when we find out the status. Thank you. Okay, anything else to come before council tonight? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Oh, second, I'm sorry.
Everyone wants to stay.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. Emery.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Lightford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes.
Okay, city council for August 22nd, 2022 is adjourned. Thank you.